Uh, Thank you, Kim. This is Al Carney. It is 9:30, and we are going to start the September 9th regular board meeting of the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York. I want to welcome all of the members, staff, of course, and any guests who may be on the line. Kim, is there anybody in the waiting room?
Yes, there is. One moment, please.
Thank you.
Hello, who's calling from 347-928-6671?
Kim, that's Bernard Armu, who's an associate with our firm, Bryant Ravina.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Because we continue to have teleconference meetings, and everybody is aware of why we're forced to do that, the normal rules that would apply to a DASNY public meeting have been suspended, and because of that suspension, there is a notification. There are several notifications that have to be read into the record. Mike Cusack is with us and will read those notifications to us and for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On March 7th, 2020, Governor Cuomo declared a disaster emergency in the state of New York due to the outbreak of the novel coronavirus, or COVID-19. Pursuant to Governor Cuomo's subsequent Executive Order 202.1, dated March 12th, 2020, as extended by several executive orders, most recently Executive Order 202.60, today's meeting of the Board of Directors of the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York, or DASNY, is being conducted telephonically and by video conference. Executive Order 202.1, as extended, provides in relevant part that Article 7 of the Public Officers Law, known as the Open Meetings Law, is suspended through October 4th, 2020, to the extent necessary to permit any public body to meet and take such actions authorized by the law without permitting in-person access to meetings and authorizing such meetings to be held remotely by conference call or similar service, provided that the public has the ability to view or listen to such proceeding and that such meetings are recorded and later transcribed. In the President's August 28, 2020 transmittal memorandum, it is noted that staff anticipated an extension of Executive Order 202.1 to encompass today's board meeting. For the record, I'd like to confirm that Governor Cuomo did sign Executive Order 202.60, dated September 4th, 2020, continuing the extension of the suspension of the Open Meetings Law for an additional 30-day period through and including October 4th, 2020. The location of today's conference call and video conference meeting of the DASNY board is designated as the DASNY headquarters, 515 Broadway, Albany, New York, where I am located. Notice of this meeting has been posted in the standard locations that are publicly accessible. Notice has also been posted prominently on the DASNY.org public website. In accordance with EO 202.1 as extended and the DASNY bylaws, an audio and video recording of today's meeting will be accessible from DASNY's website, www.dasny.org, not later than 2 business days after the close of this meeting, and today's proceedings will also be transcribed and posted as soon thereafter as is reasonable and practicable under the circumstances. I will now turn the meeting over to my colleague, Kim Ellis, who will conduct the roll call. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
Sorry.
I just said thanks. Sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off, Kim.
For the record, we have the following board members present at today's meeting. We have our chair, Al Carney, John Johnson, Pearl Snyder, John Gardner, Joan Sullivan, Jerry Romsky, Janice McKinney, Brian Chesnicki, Tracy Rowley, And we have either Patrick Ryan or Darby Grassi representing DLB.
Patrick Ryan.
Thank you, Patrick, for being with us. Kim, thank you very much. It sounds like we truly have a quorum. Thank you very much for going through the names. The first order of business on today's agenda is the approval of the transcript of the July 15th regular board meeting. The members all had a chance to read that transcript. Are there any proposed changes, additions, revisions? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, please identify yourself. May I have a motion, please, to approve the 15 July transcript?
This is Beryl. This is Beryl. I'll second.
Thank you, Beryl, for the second. And the motion was made by, was that you, Joan?
Yes, it was.
Thank you very much. Rather than asking you to respond with an aye or nay, let me ask whether there is any opposition to the approval of the 15 July transcript. Hearing none, are there any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you both. We now have to take a look at and consider the transcript from the July 22nd special meeting. You've all had a chance to read that transcript. Are there any proposed revisions? Are there additions? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to approve that transcript?
You got it, Al. It's Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry. Is there a second?
Second, Tracy.
And was that you, Joan?
Tracy.
That was Tracy.
It was Tracy. Tracy, thank you very much. Let me ask whether there is any opposition to the approval of the transcript. And are there any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. The second agenda item is the Finance Committee report.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir?
Before we start, can I just make two announcements?
Oh, yes, you did. You did ask to do that. I'm sorry. I didn't make a note.
No problem at all. It is much, just two things I wanted to announce before we started the board meeting in the business mode. One is kind of a sad, not kind of a sad note. Alexa Smith, who was a 22-year veteran at DASNY, passed away on August 30th. She had retired in March of this year. She had a long illness. She was 66. I had a chance to meet her on one occasion. She had a sweet spirit. I know a lot of our employees work with her and spoke highly of her. And so we'll just want to say a prayer or thought for her family in this difficult time. Just thought we'd take a moment. Thank you. And on a brighter note, we have joining us at the board meeting today, Maria Carrasco, who is a fellow who's with DASNY a year ago and has rejoined DASNY as a fellow for this year. She spent some time with Jeffries on the investment banking side and now has rejoined us in the public finance group. And we're really glad to have Maria back. She's a star. She's doing great work. It's been very helpful already. She's been here since August 19th and working hard. So just welcoming Maria and glad to have her back on board. Mr. Chairman, those are two things I want to say. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Ruben. Maria, welcome back. We'll look forward to seeing you whenever we can get together in person.
Thank you.
The Finance Committee report. Mr. Romsky.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And hopefully we can all meet in person in the not too distant future at our new home at 28 Liberty. But anyway, the Finance Committee met yesterday by way of teleconference or Zoom. And after my 10-minute late arrival, we discussed, first we adopted the meeting minutes from the July meeting of the Finance Committee meeting. Then we advanced to discuss two proposals. One is the PIT/sales tax revenue bond. After some discussion and a very nice presentation by staff, the Finance Committee, and after some discussion on various questions raised by other board members, we recommend that the proposal be adopted today. We then advanced to discuss the Greenberg Union Free School District bond, and we recommend that also be approved at today's board meeting. And unless anyone has any questions or concerns, that concludes my report, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Mr. Romsky, thank you very much. Are there questions for Jerry at this point? Hearing none, before we move on to looking at the two proposals, we're going to have a closed session. May I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the financial and credit history of particular corporations, proposed, pending, or current litigation, and the employment history of particular persons or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of particular persons?
So
May I have a
moved.
motion?
So
So
Thank
moved.
moved, Al.
Thank you. I don't know who made the motion. Jerry, you seconded it?
Yes.
John Gardner made the motion.
I made the
Oh.
motion.
Thank you, John. Is there any opposition to the motion? Are there any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion is approved unanimously, and we are in executive session. Thank you all for returning to the Zoom call. The record will reflect that we have just left a brief closed session during which no decisions were made other than to return to the public session. The next agenda item, the adoption of financing documents. I'll turn to the president to give us that, to begin that report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Behind tab 3, we have the personal income tax, sales tax revenue bond program, the staff memorandum. Portia Lee and Matt Bergen, with Matt taking the lead, will be the DASNY representatives, and co-bond counsels Nixon Peabody with Chris Reitzel and Bryant Rubino with Seth Bryant and Sonny Williams. Portia and Matt.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, everyone. The board is being asked to authorize the issuance of multiple series of tax-exempt and/or taxable fixed and variable rate bonds issued at one or more times with a term of 30 years in an amount not to exceed $3 billion under either the sales tax revenue bond program and/or the personal income tax revenue bond program. Although at this time, the current plan is to issue under the personal income tax revenue bond program. The bonds are being issued for new money and refunding purposes, and the new money portion includes projects that have been vetted by the Division of the Budget with a priority on health and safety, and will be for authorized purposes, including capital projects for CUNY, capital projects for the Office of Mental Health, the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities, and the Office of Addiction Services and Supports. We call these agencies the O agencies collectively. In addition, bonds will be issued for the transportation initiatives for the New York Works Transportation Infrastructure Projects, dedicated highway and bridge trust fund projects, capital projects for SUNY, capital projects for the upstate community colleges, MTA transportation facilities projects, funding various environmental initiatives, funding for state and municipal facilities or SAM grants, funding for economic development projects and/or grants, funding for healthcare grants, funding for various education programs, and funding for library facilities. Mr. President and Mr. Chairman, it should be noted that these new money estimates of approximately $2.8 billion are on the high side, and the current new money sizing is closer to $2.4 billion. And to give just a little more background on the projects for CUNY, SUNY, the O agencies, the MTA, and the transportation initiatives for New York Works infrastructure projects make up over 80% of the total dollars. For CUNY, SUNY, and the O agencies, the project descriptions include campus-wide upgrades, building repairs, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing upgrades, asbestos abatement, replacing doors, windows, roofs, HVAC projects, new boilers, and upgrades to fire suppression systems and sprinklers. For the MTA, this is part of a larger pre-approved capital plan where the state issues debt to fund its contribution to the MTA's capital plan. And for the transportation initiatives, the New York Works infrastructure projects and the dedicated highway and bridge trust fund projects, these are prospective dollars to fund roads, highways, and bridges. And just to stress again, these important projects have been vetted by the Division of the Budget with a priority on health and safety. In addition to the new money, The authorization also looks to cover the refunding of certain bonds issued under various state-supported programs in the amount of approximately $170 million. The security provisions under the Personal Income Tax Revenue Bond Program include the bonds will be paid by the semi-annual payments made pursuant to the financing agreement between DASNY and the state, and the bonds are secured by a set-aside of 50% of personal income tax revenues collected pursuant to statute and 50% of the receipts of the employer compensation expense tax, with both taxes deposited in the Revenue Bond Tax Fund. The current debt service coverage in all outstanding state personal income tax bonds is 6.8 times, and the proposed bonds are expected to be rated AA1, AA+, and AA+. Mr. Chairman, now I'd like to give the presentation over to Chris Reitzel.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Good morning, everyone. It's very nice to see faces these days. So, and I apologize in advance. I probably will repeat some of what Matt went through very well. But before you for consideration is the adoption of two supplemental resolutions, one under the Personal Income Tax Revenue Bond Program, the other under the State Sales Tax Revenue Bond Program. Each supplemental resolution authorizes individually and in the aggregate the issuance of up to $3 billion of 2020 bonds, meaning that in no event will more than $3 billion of 2020 bonds be issued under the supplemental resolutions before you today. You're being asked to authorize transactions under both the General Purpose PIT Bond Resolution adopted in 2009 and the Sales Tax Bond Resolution adopted in 2013 to maximize flexibility. The 2020 bonds are expected to be issued to finance projects identified in our board letter, but may be issued for any authorized purpose under the programs. In addition, as Matt noted, the 2020 bonds are expected to refund certain state-supported bonds issued by the authority or other authorized issuers. Each supplemental resolution permits 2020 bonds to be issued in one or more series or sub-series at one or more times and to be sold on a negotiated basis or through competitive bidding. In addition, all or a portion of the 2020 bonds may be issued as tax-exempt bonds and/or federally taxable bonds. As Matt noted, it is currently expected that the 2020 bonds will be issued under the PIT program as fixed-rate, tax-exempt, and federally taxable bonds sold on a competitive basis. Each supplemental resolution also provides for an authorized officer of the authority to execute and deliver one or more supplements to the related financing agreement to reflect any additional issuance under the respective program. Each supplemental resolution also delegates to various officers the power to make the determinations described in our letter and to do all things necessary or convenient in connection with the sale and issuance of the 2020 bonds. At this point, I'll turn it over to the folks at Bryant Rubino.
Thanks, Chris. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. President, and staff. It's nice to be with you all again. I'm Sonny Williams.
Good to have you, Sonny. Good to have you. It's Al Carney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Sonny Williams, partner at Bryant Rubino, co-bond counsel on this proposed financing. I will provide an overview of the state's PIT program and sales tax program. And as Chris did, I will apologize in advance if anything that I have down here replicates what Matt Bergen had stated to the board earlier. With regards to the PIT program, Article 5C of the state finance law authorizes the authority and certain other authorized issuers to issue PIT bonds for any authorized purpose. All PIT bonds issued under the General Purpose PIT Bond Resolution are special obligations of the authority secured by payments to be received by the authority under the PIT financing agreement with the division of the budget. The PIT financing agreement obligates the state to pay debt service on the outstanding PIT bonds, notes, and other obligations. Those payments are made from amounts available in the Revenue Bond Tax Fund established by state finance law and are subject to annual appropriation. The Revenue Bond Tax Fund receives a statutorily allocated portion of the state's personal income tax receipts and a statutorily allocated portion of the Employer Compensation Expense Program receipts. With regards to the state tax program, Article 5F of the New York State Finance Law authorizes the authority and certain other authorized issuers to issue sales tax bonds for any of the purposes for which state-supported debt may or has been issued. All state tax bonds issued under the sales tax bond resolution are special obligations of the authority secured by payments to be received by the authority under the sales tax financing agreement with the division of the budget. The sales tax financing agreement obligates the state to pay debt service on all outstanding sales tax bonds issued under the sales tax bond resolution. These payments are made from amounts available in the sales tax revenue bond tax fund established by the state finance law, and they are also subject to appropriation. The sales tax revenue bond tax fund receives a statutorily allocated percentage of the revenues collected from the state sales and compensating use taxes. This concludes our presentation, but we're happy to answer any questions from the board. Thank you.
Before we take questions, if there are any, Jerry Romsky can confirm that the Finance Committee met yesterday and after considerable discussion actually, voted unanimously to recommend this matter to the board for the board's consideration and, if appropriate, approval. Are there questions for
That's
Matt?
correct, Al.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yep.
Are there questions for Matt or Chris? Chris, welcome. I did not welcome you. I meant to do it and just was taking a note. And Sonny, good to have you as always.
Thank you.
Questions for those three or for Portia? Hearing none.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Mr.
Portia.
Chairman, if I might, just for the record, as Matt had noted in the staff report, just wanted to note here as well, the issuance of these bonds as state-supported debt will not be counted towards the debt cap pursuant to the Debt Reform Act that was pursuant to legislation that was included in the budget.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Portia. Is there anybody who doesn't understand what Portia just told us? Does everybody know what she means? And Portia, maybe you want to take a second, Portia, to explain the debt cap.
Well, I think, we typically note every time we bring these issuances to the board that the issuance is subject to the debt cap, and
Yes.
we've received the information from the Division of Budget noting that they are in compliance with the debt cap. That serves as a limitation on the amount of debt that may be issued. There was legislation included in the budget which exempted the issuance in this fiscal year from that debt cap. And I just wanted to note, to the extent that, this was something a little bit different, I just wanted to highlight that for the members for the record.
Okay. Portia, thank you. Hearing no questions, may I have a motion, please, to approve the transaction? Hello?
I will move. This is Beryl.
Thank you, Beryl. May I have a second, please?
I'll second Beryl.
Jerry, thank you very much. Thank you. Is there opposition to the approval of the resolution? Are there abstentions with regard to this vote? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously and the transaction is approved. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, we're going on to the number 4.
Thank you very much. Behind tab 4 is the Greenberg 11 Union Free School District transaction summary, and Gerard Klauser will be presenting this from DASNY. Gerard?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, senior DASNY staff and guests, the staff report provided to the members for the resolution to proceed presents a 20-year bond issue in an amount not to exceed $8,685,000 on behalf of the Greenberg 11 Union Free School District, also known as the district. Located in Dobbs Ferry, New York, the district resides on the grounds of the Children's Village, a renowned residential treatment center, and services approximately 140 emotionally disabled students. The district was established in 1928. The proposed bond issue, pardon me, the proposed bond issue will be a fixed and or variable rate, tax exempt and or taxable Series 2020 bonds with a term not to exceed 20 years and is expected to be sold through a private placement to Nuveen Investments and Victory Capital Management, both of whom are QUIBs. The bonds will not be rated, and the institution does not have an underlying rating. The security package includes a standby intercept of state operating aid, the assignment of Part 1 tuition and building aid, and leasehold interest and other real property interests required by the purchasers. The project consists of the repairs and replacement construction, which includes wall systems, windows and roof replacement, a new fire alarm system, renovation of existing space, drainage repair, HVAC, plumbing repairs, and building security renovations. There have been 7 series of bonds issued under the Special Acts School District Program, and this will be the 8th issuance. Currently, there are 3 series of bonds outstanding, as referenced in Table 1 of the staff report. Greenberg 11 was a participant in the 1998 issuance and fully redeemed the 1998 bonds in July 1, 2012. Greenberg 11 currently has no bonds outstanding with DASNY. The State Education Department and the Division of Budget have approved financing in an amount not to exceed $8,685,000. Accordingly, staff recommends the board adopt a resolution to proceed with a 20-year bond issuance in an amount not to exceed $8,685,000 on behalf of the Greenberg 11 Union Free School District. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clauser. Again, the Finance Committee met yesterday and voted unanimously to recommend this proposed financing to the full board for the discussion and decision, final decision. Are there any questions for Gerard? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to approve the transaction?
Sure.
John
Gartner raising his hand.
So moved. Sorry, couldn't get to the unmute button fast enough.
Thank you very much, John. Is there a second?
Janice McKinney, second.
Janice, thank you very much. Is there any opposition to the motion? Are there any abstentions from this vote? Hearing none, the motion is approved unanimously and the matter passes. Thank you all very much. Mr. President, you've got the 5th agenda item, your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for everyone for being here this morning. I have a few updates for us all, and then we have some resolutions and some business we need to take care of on our personnel matters. So first, I want to give everybody an update just on where we are with COVID. As you know, we are at a kind of a 25% density level in the building, people working A day, B day as needed. Most people continue to work remotely and doing it effectively. That status will remain at least until October the 2nd. The governor's office will give us some additional guidance on just general building density. We will be evaluating how the schools have opened up and making sure that everyone has, their safety protocols and such in place, and then make some different decisions about how to continue through the fall. But we're all functioning very well. The building has been cleaned regularly, and I feel good about where we are from a communication perspective. We are trying to do a few things I think that are interesting, just to stay engaged with our employees. The HR group has done a small group meeting series that they continue through this month called HR Connect, where they get 6 to 8 people from the organization who are from different departments and lets them talk about and ask questions about any HR issues, but also any challenges from working at home or any other issues they have, just to keep people engaged. This Friday, I'll be getting my first Friday with the President Lunch series. Maybe my only one if it doesn't go well. But we'll be highlighting our SUNY Poly dorm work, which is the first net zero dorm in the New York State project we're all very proud of. We'll go through that and also do some Q&A work. And so we're looking forward to that. And really, I'm encouraging everyone on our staff that in this time where we are physically distant to make sure that people are reaching out to each other, and that seems to be going well as we move from Labor Day on. We'll certainly be working hard on that. I also have been taking this time to meet virtually with various legislators. Michael Hernandez has helped me organize those in anticipation of our session coming up in January. I want to make sure we had a chance to meet with folks that we typically would have met with in person over time. So those meetings have gone well, have quite a few more scheduled, also meeting with heads of various agencies, met with ESD a couple of weeks ago and have some other ones going as well. So, really trying to stay engaged both internally and externally in this environment, and I think that's going well. My second point I want to bring up is an update. As we mentioned at the last board meeting, each board meeting, we will update you on 28 Liberty and its progress. We are 100% out of Penn Plaza. August 31st was our last official date, although our team did a fantastic job and everyone got out of the building and we were inspected probably 2.5, 3 weeks ago. So I can't commend our staff, both organizationally as well as those individuals who reside in New York coming in, getting their stuff packed up and moved out. So I'm very pleased with that. The 28 Liberty space is on time and on budget. But Steve Curl had the opportunity to go by 28 Liberty a week or two ago. So I would ask him to give you an update on what he physically saw. And Steve, while you have the floor, also, can you give us an update on our SUNY summer work? Steve?
Sure, thanks, Ruben. Just checking, can everyone hear me okay?
You're great.
Yes.
Yep,
Super.
you're fine.
I was down at 28 Liberty 2 weeks ago. Peter Jackson, who's DASNY's project manager, and I went through the building. At this point, there's a fair amount of fit-up activity ongoing. The wall framing and sheetrocking for most of the spaces is completed. And there's a fair amount of MEP work, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, rough-in ongoing. There's a lot of duct work being hung. And there's a fair amount of electrical rough-in for both just typical use and some of the electrical closets ongoing. We did get into the bathrooms as well, and the bathrooms are far more advanced than the rest of the space, with some of the finish work also completed in the bathrooms. The toilets and the sinks are in, mirrors are hung. So all in all, the project seems to be moving along at the pace it needs to for the completion to land sometime in November, December. Peter Jackson and I also were able to sit in on a subcontractor meeting that same day. And we listened in to the general contractor, just quizzed the subcontractors on their manpower, as well as their ability to move things along. And all in all, it seems as though the project is being managed appropriately. And the subcontractors, like all subcontractors would, seem to be fairly confident in their ability to move the project along. In addition to that, I just want to state that DASNY's code compliance group has made a couple of stops into the space as well. About every other week, they're stopping in and just observing the construction and putting together a very small brief report. Again, we're not permitting this project. We're not managing or holding contracts for this project, but we are walking through and taking the liberty to provide our opinions on the space and the code related activities as well. I will probably be back down there in a couple of weeks and look forward to seeing the progress at that time. As far as
before you go on to your next topic, Steve, it's Peter Jackson who managed the Harlem Hospital project, I believe. several years back. What an impressive guy he is. Your decisions as to who manages DASNY's project, but I'm almost certain it's the same fellow. He was on top of every facet, every question I asked him about the hospital project. Peter was prepared to answer, and he could get into the weeds. He's a very, very impressive guy. It sounds like he may well be, he certainly is, in your view, the right guy for this project.
Good observation and good memory, Al. Yep, Peter was our project manager on Harlem Hospital, and that project speaks for itself. So we're confident in his abilities to manage through this. Even though, again, we're not holding contracts, we're not the code promoter.
Sure.
We do have a project manager, and we do have our code guys going through.
And Steve was kind enough, Al, also to let me know of the status, and hopefully in the next week or so when Steve's down, I'll be able to fit it into my schedule to also wander around and give my unsolicited 2 cents. So
outstanding,
thanks,
Mr.
Steve.
Chairman, outstanding. Thank you. Thank you, Steve, for doing that.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome. I look forward to walking the space with you. As far as SUNY goes, we had quite an interesting summer. We had 6 capital projects that started a year ago, May 2019. And typically those projects bump along and, we end up scurrying around at the following July and August to finish up. But there were several roadblocks, as everybody knows, that kind of got in the way this year. So, we started 6 projects. We started a project at Plattsburgh, Kent Hall. We were down at Oneonta. We were in Oswego. We were at SUNY Cortland. We had phase 2B of the Mackenzie Hall renovation out at Alfred. And we had a new build at SUNY Polytech, Hillside. And those projects, through the turn of the year, we're moving along at the typical pace we would expect. COVID came along and the New York pause had us shut those projects down for about a month plus. And, the observation I make is that if you shut a project down during the first, quarter of the project, the impact isn't as great as shutting it down at the back end. And, that's what we did to these contractors. But as far as the 6 capital projects go, we had varying outcomes. Plattsburgh's project and Oneonta's project both finished in July, pretty much on time. And when I say on time, we did provide the contractors $0 cost time extensions to their projects for the time that they lost during the COVID shutdown. So the new schedules and new substantial completion dates were meant on those 2 projects. As far as the balance, SUNY Alfred decided to push off their opening of Mackenzie Phase 2B until the 2nd semester in January. We are on track to complete that project at that time. SUNY Cortland landed next in early August. Then came SUNY Poly about a week before the kids were moving in. We TAO'd that project. And lastly was Fennell Hall up at Oswego, which was a tremendous effort. And we actually TAO'd that project on the 18th of August with the students moving in on the 19th. So subsequently that move-in date was moved a bit, but the pressure to deliver there was great. And the college, told us they had to have that dorm done. So, we're painting and cleaning up at one end of the building, and the kids are moving in at the other end, which was quite interesting and quite challenging. Along with that, we had 21 summer projects worth about $40 million. The last one finished up at SUNY Purchase, again, a couple of days before the kids moved in. And all of those projects, were met with varying degrees of difficulty based on, the labor force wanting to come back to work under the COVID protocols, and a lot of other challenges that, the college has had. But all in all, it was a good summer, Ruben, and we finished up all the projects. Looking forward to a little bit of a breather now and getting ready for what comes next.
Hey, Steve, before you drop the floor, can you just give us an update in broad terms about SUNY and CUNY and kind of what guidance we're beginning to get from the various agencies?
Sure. The budget bulletin B1223 is still a hurdle that really all of the DASNY customer agencies other than SUNY need to jump over, and that is approval from New York State DOB to be able to enter into new contracts and progress work. And new contracts includes both design contracts and construction contracts. So it's almost irrelevant how much work DASNY has ready to go. If we don't have the budget bulletin approval from New York State DOB, we're out of luck. Recently, CUNY has been granted approval in 2 tranches of about 90 to 100 projects each, which was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So the good news on the CUNY front is we are advancing a number of projects that were ready to go, or a number of new designs that we were ready to undertake. In addition to that, New York City OMB, which also put a pause on any city-funded projects, allowed for us to move forward with a number of community college projects that were ready to go as well. So we got about 20 to 25 of those projects off the line. On the SUNY side, not as good of news. We have a number of capital projects that we wanted to start in May. I think we had 6 or 7. None of those projects actually started. And we have just a handful of summer projects for the summer of 2021 that were already underway from a design standpoint that we're continuing to finish up design on. But again, we won't be able to move to construction without the approval of SUNY or the campuses. And there's also the cash backup for those projects through a bond sale that we're waiting on as well. So I think just to summarize quickly, very good news on the CUNY front, not so much on the SUNY.
Great. Thank you, Steve.
Steve, thank you. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Moving on to public finance, clearly we've had a busy few months in public finance, including the PIT transaction that you all approved today. I'd ask Portia to give a quick market update and any other updates she wants to give on the public finance side. Portia?
Sure. Thank you, Ruben. Can you hear me okay?
You're fine.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
ma'am. Thank you.
Terrific. So total new issue supply is currently about $307 billion to date. That's about 25% higher than supply levels that were seen at this time last year. Total supply for this week is expected to be manageable at about $7.6 billion. Top-rated municipal bonds were unchanged across the curve yesterday as investors returned following the long holiday weekend. The 10-year AAA MMD yield ended the day at 0.83%, while the 30-year held steady at 1.57%. U.S. government bonds were stronger, with the 10-year Treasury decreasing by 4 basis points to 0.68%, and the 30-year decreasing by 5 basis points to 1.41%. Municipal bond funds reported inflows for the week ending September 2nd, and this was the 17th consecutive week of inflows, so certainly good news. Since the July board meeting, the 1-year MMD decreased by 5 basis points, the 10-year increased by 5 basis points, and the 30-year increased by 7 basis points. And that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Portia.
We'll now move into a series of resolutions. As the board knows, Kim Nadeau, our former CFO, has retired. Her last official day in the office was last Friday, although she has a couple of vacation weeks, so she's still technically a DASNY employee. I spoke with her yesterday. She is actually on the road to Maine at the moment, but she looks forward to seeing the transcript of the board meeting and sends her best to all the board members and appreciates, Kim's fairly reserved, but wanted to make sure everyone knew that she was appreciative of her time. With that, we have appointed Kim Ellis to be our new CFO. Kim has had 20 plus years at DASNY in the finance division. She has worked in various different capacities, including the number 2 person under Kim Nadeau. Most recently, she moved into a position where she was able to get some independent management skill set, because we had been thinking that she would be our next CFO. We're grooming her for that. Came a little more quickly than we expected, but Kim has transitioned nicely. She and Kim Nadeau spent 30 days meeting daily to go through the various topics, and Kim Nadeau did a great job of being helpful there. Kim Ellis has demonstrated tremendous understanding of DASNY's finance, and I really have strong confidence in her. We also had Kim had a brief meeting with our auditor, who followed up with me, and KPMG is very confident in Kim Ellis's ability to take over the role from an auditing perspective. Kim Ellis has been in that process over the past, 7, 8, 9 years, so she's very familiar with both the process and the personnel. So I feel very good about that. So we also had another retirement, Fran Brooks. Some of you may know her as Fran Lewis in the General Counsel's office, has retired, and we had one movement internally. So several of the resolutions around the authorizations to invest and transfer money are simply a result of those changes. So that's what those resolutions are, just basically cleaning up some technical work we need to do. So we'll have one resolution for appointing Kim Ellis as CFO with my strong recommendation, 2 technical resolutions, and then the chairman has a resolution he wants to conclude with. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it over to you to handle these 4 resolutions.
Thank you very much. The resolution, I'm sorry, I'm looking for it. Forgive me. The first resolution that I will ask the board to consider is the appointment of Kimberly Ellis as Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer. It's a very simple resolution. Are there any questions about this? Any comments? Hearing none, is there any opposition? Hearing none, are there any abstentions? I'm sorry, I didn't ask for a motion. I need to go back and correct that. May I have a motion, please, to appoint Kimberly Ellis as Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer?
So moved. This is Beryl.
Thanks, Beryl. Second? Second?
Joan Sullivan.
Joan, thank you very much. Now, is there any opposition to the motion? Are there abstentions from the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved unanimously, and Kimberly Ellis is our new Chief Financial Officer, effective immediately. Is that correct?
That is correct. Congratulations, Kim.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Kim, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to it.
The second resolution reaffirms and elects officers of DASNY. It is immediately behind Kim's CV. I didn't count the number of officers, but it begins with John Johnson as Vice Chair, Beryl Snyder as Secretary, Kim Ellis as Treasurer, and then there are a bunch of Assistant Treasurers and Assistant Secretaries. Have you all had a chance to take a look at it? Are there any questions about it? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to approve it?
Joan Sullivan, I make the motion.
Thank you, Joan. Second?
Janice McKinney, second.
Janice, thank you very much. Is there any opposition to the motion? Are there any abstentions from the vote? Hearing none, the motion is approved unanimously, and the slate of officers is appointed. Well, elected, actually. The third resolution authorized certain named employees to approve and execute investment transactions. This is a standard resolution. We've seen it before. It simply substitutes some names. There are a couple of technical amendments in which it was necessary to insert new dates. But other than that, there is no substantive revision in this resolution. Have you all had a chance to read it? Are there any questions about it? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to approve it?
So moved.
Thank you, John. Is there a second?
John Johnson.
Yeah, well, thank you. John, I thought you actually moved it. You did not? Somebody else did?
John Gardner moved it.
Ah, thank you very much, John, and I didn't get that. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, are there any abstentions? There being none, the motion carries unanimously, and the revisions are approved for investment transactions. I'm sorry, the investment transactions resolution is approved. The last resolution is one that I'd like to read to the board. It is the recognition of service resolution. It was a group project, but I think it turned out very, very well. I'm going to read the entire thing. Whereas Kimberly J. Nadeau served as the 5th Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer in DASNY's history and held this position for nearly 5 years, commencing in November of 2015. And whereas Ms. Nadeau has overseen and directed the activities of the Office of Finance and Information Services, and whereas Ms. Nadeau was responsible for supervising DASNY's investment program, general accounting, accounts payable, accounts receivable, financial reporting functions, budget, payroll, and insurance, and whereas Ms. Nadeau's tenure at DASNY, during Ms. Nadeau's tenure at DASNY, the authority delivered more than $40 billion in tax-exempt and taxable financings on behalf of New York clients. And whereas Ms. Nadeau promoted the advancement and use of technology throughout DASNY by upgrading and updating information technology systems and infrastructure and led DASNY's effort to enhance information security technology. And whereas Ms. Nadeau very successfully managed her staff to streamline operations and departmental procedures in line with the One DASNY process improvements, and whereas Ms. Nadeau oversaw DASNY's implementation of disaster recovery protocols, the internal and external information threat protection systems, a comprehensive payables program, the integration of virtual credit cards and ACH payment options for vendors, and the automation of several processes, including the trustee interfaces, and whereas Ms. Nadeau has administered scores of bond-related restricted funds and hundreds of operating accounts and produced numerous sets of audited financial statements during her tenure, and whereas Ms. Nadeau has provided DASNY with expert advice in matters of DASNY's investment practices, financial policies, financial management systems, and internal controls for financial reporting, and whereas Ms. Nadeau demonstrated exemplary staff and external resource leadership, advancing DASNY's mission in every aspect of her work, and whereas Ms. Nadeau has been a trusted advisor to the immediate past president and most recently to Reuben R. McDaniel III, DASNY President and Chief Executive Officer, Board Chair, myself, and Audit Committee Chair, Jonathan H. Gardner, and whereas Ms. Nadeau is the ultimate guardian of all things financial within DASNY, is a person upon whom this board relied most heavily for her judgment, balance, and grasp of the issues that concern this board most in protecting the interests and mission of DASNY in the state of New York. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the DASNY board pauses to reflect and appreciate the dedication, commitment, leadership, integrity, and management skills Ms. Nadeau brought to DASNY during her tenure, and be it further resolved that the board extends its sincerest thanks and best wishes for success to Kimberly J. Nadeau in her future endeavors. You've all had a chance to take a look at it. I'd like to make some comments, but I'll do that after we've had a chance to vote. Are there any questions about this? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to approve it?
So moved.
Thank you very much, John. Is there a second?
I'll second it, yeah.
Second, Joan. Oh,
John Johnson, thank you very much. I'd like to simply adopt this resolution unanimously, hearing no opposition and believing that there are no abstentions. And thank you all very much for that. And the record will so reflect. You can't do acclamation in one of these resolutions, but you can get fairly close. Let me say, and anybody else who wants to comment about Kimberly, welcome to do so. I enjoyed working with her for the entire time she was with us once I got to know her. She is competent, but she is intensely competent. She responded to all the members whenever the members had questions. She had the ability, and I'm sure continues to have the ability, to layer an answer, which is to say she could give you an easy answer, and if you wanted more information, Kim Nadeau had the ability to dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and I very much appreciated that skill set that she had. It was easy to be confident in the quality of the advice she gave us, and finally, it was simply a pleasure to work with her, a real pleasure. If there are other comments, please get them into the record. If they're not, then we'll move on.
Al, I wholeheartedly agree with everything you said. Kim was infinitely competent, and the word crisp comes to mind. Everything she did had a snap and a professionalism. It was just crisp, and that's a lot of where confidence comes from. Kim, good luck with everything you're going to do.
It's terrific, and thank you very much, John. Is there anyone else who has anything to say about in support of Kim Nadeau?
I would just reinforce what both of you gents just stated, and I just remember when we had that problem with the it was in ransomware or was some type of attack that she was all over it, and thankfully we didn't suffer any issues because of it. So she'll be missed, but we look forward to working with her with Kim on a new replacement. So thank you.
What are the chances of there being successive chief financial officers anywhere with the first name Kimberly?
Yes, right. So welcome, Kim. Welcome. We'll call Kimberly too, right? Welcome, Kimberly.
No, we're not going to do that.
Welcome to Kimberly.
Kimberly, let me make this comment. It's directed at you, and it's in support of your appointment to the job. There's no doubt in my mind that you are more than qualified to get this job done. Like the idea that you're in the position, looking forward to working with you. Your management style and your predecessor's management style are likely to be very different, but I'm certain that both will lead, that your management style will lead you to the kind of success that you want in this position. Thank you very much for being there for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I look forward to it.
All right. Mr. President, are there other things in your report that
concludes my report, Mr. Chairman. As you know, we're moving on to the Atlantic Avenue board meeting, so we will stay on the Zoom call for that once this meeting is concluded.
I was just about to say something like that, I hope. Was I gonna? Yes. Yes. So we are about to conclude the business of this meeting. If the members will stay on the phone for the telephonic Atlantic Avenue Healthcare Property Holding Corporation board meeting, staff certainly and I would be very grateful. May I have a motion? I think we're ready to adjourn. Is there any other business to come before this board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to adjourn the meeting?
Joan Sullivan, I make the motion.
Thank you.
This is-
Second. Thank you. Is there any opposition to ending the meeting? Hearing none, the vote is unanimous to conclude this meeting and to open.
Al, I got a question for our two fine members from Buffalo. How is it to have actual baseball up in Buffalo, John? And
Now, Jerry, the Buffalo Bisons are actual baseball.
I got it.
But now we have a little better.
Okay, good.
I can't comment. Janice, do you want to comment?
Yeah. Thank you both, by the way. Thank you.
I think that we're still on record. Do we want to stay? Do we want
They're
to stay on
whooping
the
the Yankees, by the way. I can do that on record.
All right. Well, thank you all. I'm sorry, Al. Sorry about that, Al.
That's fine. The meeting is officially adjourned, and then we will reopen with the Atlantic Avenue meeting. I have something here on that.